My boyfriend used my streaming account to message the woman he told me not to worry about. That's a whole different mess, but before I get into that, I need to tell you about what happened at work first. Because honestly, the two are connected in a way I never saw coming. Trust gets broken in so many different directions, and sometimes you don't even realize how deep it goes until you're standing in the middle of it. I have chronic pain, that's not a secret. I've had it for years and I've learned to manage it. I explain it to people like this. If pain is on a scale of 1 to 10, normal people walk around at a 1 or 2. I'm at a 6 most days. Imagine stepping on a Lego or hitting your funny bone, that's a brief excruciating 8. For me, it's like having a pulled muscle that never fully heals. Some days I'm higher, rare blessed days I drop to a 4. I own canes, but I only use them when I hit a 7 or above. On those days, the cane helps take the edge off my hip and lower back. This all came to a head on a Sunday this past January. I work 2 jobs, a full-time gig and a part-time one that I actually enjoy. The part-time job helps pad my savings and keeps my anxiety busy. I love my team there, my boss Amy is really great. But there's this coworker Casey, we're both assistant coordinators under Amy. Casey has wanted a promotion for a long time and everyone knows it. I was pretty open that I don't want it, any promotion would be full-time and I already have a full-time job. So we got along okay, but I could tell she resented me being there. I'm disabled, physically and legally, so I have paperwork on file for accommodations. I have a handicap marker on my license plate and a placard on my rearview mirror. It's all above board. That Sunday I woke up at a 7, everything hurt. I grabbed my cane, threw on a hoodie and headed to the grocery store to pick up a few things. I didn't think anything of it. I was in and out in about 20 minutes. When I got home, I saw that someone had sent me a text. It was from a friend who works at the same store. She said, "Hey, did you know your coworker Casey was filming you in the parking lot?" I felt my stomach drop. I asked for more details. She said Casey was standing by her car, phone out, clearly recording me walking from the store to my car. My friend said it looked like Casey was zooming in on my license plate, my handicap placard, and then me walking with my cane. She thought it was weird but didn't want to confront her. I didn't scream, I didn't even cry. I just sat there, heart pounding, thinking this is real. She's trying to prove I'm not disabled. I reported it to Amy the next day. Amy was horrified. She pulled Casey into a meeting and Casey's response was basically, "I was just concerned about her safety because I saw her using a cane, so I documented it." That's when I knew I had to escalate. I went to HR. HR said they'd investigate, but they also told me this wasn't something they could punish her for just yet because it happened off the clock and off company property. They suggested I file a police report for stalking or invasion of privacy. So I did. I went to the local police station. The officer I talked to was polite but basically shrugged. He said because it was in a public parking lot, there's no expectation of privacy and taking a video of someone in public isn't illegal. He said he could take a report but they likely wouldn't pursue it. I felt like I was being gaslit. I'm a black woman in Texas, I already know how the system works, but I thought this is blatant. She followed me, recorded me, and used it to try to discredit my disability. The officer just said, "Ma'am, it's not a crime to record someone in public. If she posts it or uses it to harass you, then we can talk." I left that station feeling worse than when I walked in. I told Amy and she said we'd push HR. Casey's behavior started getting cold. She wouldn't look at me. She started making little comments to other coworkers about some people faking it for perks. I knew it was about me. The atmosphere turned toxic. I started documenting everything, times, places, what she said. I went back to HR twice more and both times they said they needed more evidence before they could take disciplinary action. I was literally watching her film me outside work again 2 days later, this time from across the street while I was at a coffee shop. My friend confirmed she was there again. That's when I lost it. I went back to the police station, this time with my friend who witnessed the first video. They took a statement but still nothing. I was told to get a lawyer, so I did. I found an employment attorney who works with disability cases. She said what Casey was doing likely violated the Americans with Disabilities Act if it created a hostile work environment based on my disability. She sent a letter to my company's legal department. Suddenly, HR was very interested. The next week, I was called into a meeting with Amy and the regional HR director. They said they had reviewed the footage. A coworker had secretly filmed Casey filming me in the coffee shop parking lot and sent it to HR, so now it was documented. Casey was put on administrative leave pending investigation. I thought that was the end of it, but then I got an email from Casey's personal email address. She said, "You think you're so smart, just wait until I show everyone what you're really like." I forwarded it to my lawyer. I was scared. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I called in sick to both jobs. My boyfriend, the one from the streaming account thing, kept asking what was wrong, but I couldn't even talk about it. I just said work stuff. I didn't tell him about the videos or the lawyer because I didn't want him to worry. But looking back, that was the first crack. I was so consumed by this betrayal at work that I ignored what was happening right in front of me. Eventually, I went back to work. Casey was still on leave. Amy said the investigation would take a few more weeks. I tried to focus on my job, but I felt like everyone was watching me. I started using my cane even on days when I was at a 5 just to make a point. I hated that I felt like I had to prove myself. That's the thing about invisible disabilities, you're always on trial. Every time you have a good day, people think you're faking. Every time you have a bad day, they think you're exaggerating. And when someone like Casey decides to expose you, it feels like the whole world is against you. My lawyer called 2 weeks later. She said the company offered to transfer Casey to another location and give me a formal written apology plus cover the cost of my attorney fees. I could accept or push for termination. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted her fired. But another part of me just wanted it to stop. I said I'd think about it. That night I sat on my couch scrolling through my phone when I noticed something strange. My streaming account, the one I share with my boyfriend, had a login from a device I didn't recognize. I checked the watch history. Someone had been watching shows I never heard of. I clicked on the messages tab and that's when I saw it. My boyfriend had been messaging a woman through the app. The name was familiar. It was the woman he always told me not to worry about, the one from his work. The one he said was just a friend. The messages were flirty, personal, and they'd been going on for months. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat there, phone in my hand, feeling the same sinking feeling I felt in that grocery store parking lot. Two betrayals, both invisible until I looked closely. I thought I was overreacting at first. Maybe it was innocent. But then I remembered how he'd been acting distant, how he'd been protective of his phone, how he'd told me I was being paranoid. And all I could think was he used my account. He used my streaming account to talk to her behind my back. That moment, that discovery, is what I need to tell you about. But before I get into the confrontation, the crying, the texts, the way my parents took his side, and the ultimate, but before I get into how that confrontation played out, let me take you back to a different mess, one that happened years earlier but still feels fresh every time I think about it. It's the kind of story that makes you realize family loyalty can be a one-way street. I was 25 when my world got flipped upside down. My stepsister, we'll call her Lily, and I grew up together. Our parents married when I was 4 and she was 3. We were sisters in every way that mattered. We shared a room, fought over clothes, stayed up late whispering about crushes. I loved her. Then she got cancer when she was 14. For 2 years she was in and out of hospitals. Chemo, radiation, losing her hair, throwing up, crying. My parents became shells of themselves, hyper-focused on keeping her alive. And they asked a lot of me. I was 16 when I had to quit my volleyball team. I threw a tantrum about that, got grounded for a month, and then learned to shut my mouth. I got a job at a diner after school. Every paycheck went toward her medical bills. I drove her to appointments, picked up her prescriptions, sat with her when she was too weak to talk. I missed my own prom because she had a bad infection that night. I didn't complain, she was my sister, she made it, full recovery. She's been cancer-free for years now, and I was so relieved, so grateful that I let the resentment I buried stay buried. I went to college, met a guy, Ben, my junior year. We fell hard. After graduation, we moved in together. 3 years of shared rent, grocery lists, Netflix passwords, all of that. I thought we were building a life. Then in July, I came home early from a shift. I walked into our bedroom and saw Ben on top of Lily on my bed in my apartment. I didn't scream. I stood there for maybe 5 seconds watching them scramble. Lily was crying, apologizing, pulling on her jeans. Ben was stammering something about it being a mistake. I said, "Get out." He left that night. Lily left the next morning after I ignored her texts. She apologized over and over, swore she was drunk, swore it would never happen again. I said I needed space. She gave me space for about 3 weeks. Then she called and asked to meet for coffee. I thought maybe she wanted to genuinely make amends. I went, she sat across from me, looked me in the eye and said, "Ben and I are in love. We've been seeing each other since you broke up. We're just telling you out of courtesy before we go public on social media." I didn't scream, I didn't even speak. I just stood up, walked out, left her with the bill. She Venmoed me later asking for her half. I ignored it. Then my parents called. They wanted me to come over for dinner. I went thinking maybe they'd support me. Instead, my stepmom started with, "We raised you better than this. Lily has been through so much, she deserves happiness. You need to accept her relationship with Ben." My dad, her dad, not my bio dad, nodded along. He said, "Lily has been through hell, you have to be the bigger person." I said, "She slept with my boyfriend in my bed and now she's dating him." My stepmom said, "It was one mistake and they're in love now, you're being selfish." Selfish. That word echoed in my head. I had given up my teenage years for her. I had worked minimum wage to pay for her treatments. I had driven her to every appointment. And now I was selfish for not wanting to be best friends with the woman who was sleeping with my ex. I left that dinner without eating. A few days later, my dad, my bio dad, called. I told him the whole story. He listened, said he was sorry, said he'd talked to my stepmom and stepsister. I felt a little hope. Then he texted me, "Your sister is really struggling with this. She says you won't even talk to her. Can you at least meet her halfway?" I didn't respond. The pressure kept coming. My stepmom called every other day. My stepsister posted photos of her and Ben on Instagram with a caption, "So grateful for this man." Read, my friends started asking if I was okay. I cried in my car after work. I stopped eating. I started isolating myself. Then one evening, my dad, my bio dad, said he wanted to take me out to dinner, just the two of us. I agreed. I needed someone on my side. I showed up at the restaurant at the time he said. I waited 10 minutes, 20, 45. I called him, no answer. I texted, nothing. I sat there for an hour before I finally left. I drove home in a daze. When I got home, I had a text from my stepsister. Dad told me he was meeting you to try to get you to forgive me. He chickened out, lol, can we talk now? That text broke something in me. My own father had agreed to a dinner trap. He set me up to get ambushed by my sister and then he couldn't even go through with it. He just left me sitting there alone in a restaurant waiting for someone who never showed up. I laughed when I read her text. It was a hollow, ugly laugh. I blocked all of them, my stepmom, my stepsister, my dad, the whole group chat. I changed my number, it's been over a year now, I haven't spoken to them. I've heard through family friends that Lily and Ben got engaged. My stepmom posted a photo of them with a caption, so proud of our strong survivor. I saw it on a mutual friend's feed and felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just emptiness. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the asshole. I mean, she had cancer, she almost died. But does that mean I have to accept her sleeping with my boyfriend? Does that mean my feelings don't matter? I still don't have an answer. But I know one thing, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. My sister showed me that my happiness was never part of her equation. And my dad showed me that I was always the afterthought, so I walked away. And I haven't looked back. But before I could fully process that betrayal, life threw another curveball, one that made me realize some people will go out of their way to tear you down just because they want what you have. I've lived with chronic pain for years, not the kind that lets up after a good night's sleep. The kind that sits in your bones every single day, a constant hum in the background. On a scale of 1 to 10, normal people are at a 2 or 3 most days. I'm at a 6. Some days I'm higher, rare blessed days I dip to a 4 or even lower if I'm lucky. I've learned to function. I work 2 jobs, I stay active. I own canes, but only use them when I'm at a 7 or above. I have a handicap placard on my rearview mirror, a license plate marker, all the official paperwork filed with my employer in case I ever need accommodations. My main job is full-time. My second job is part-time, something I picked up to pad my savings and keep busy. Being busy helps with my anxiety. I like the work. I was recently moved to a new location closer to my home and I loved it. My new boss, Amy, was great. My colleague Casey and I got along okay, but we held the same position, assistant coordinators under Amy. The reason I was moved there was that the location expanded and needed more hands, so they added me. Casey had wanted a promotion for a long time, everyone knew it. I was pretty open that I didn't want one. Any promotion from my position would be full-time and I already had a full-time job. I was happy where I was. Casey worked harder than she needed to, always trying to prove herself. I didn't think much of it at first, then the comments started. You're lucky you get to leave early on bad days. Must be nice to have a handicap pass for the front row. I wish I could just say I'm in pain and skip out on tasks. I brushed it off. People don't understand chronic pain unless they live it. But Casey didn't stop. She started asking me pointed questions about my condition, my medications, my doctor's appointments. I kept my answers vague. It wasn't her business. A few months in, I had a bad flare-up. I was at a 7, maybe an 8. I used my cane that day. Parked in the handicap spot, I limped into the office. Casey saw me and smiled in a way that made my stomach turn. She said, "Oh, so today's a cane day? Must be nice to get the sympathy vote." I ignored her. A week later, I was grocery shopping on my day off. I felt okay, maybe a 5 on the pain scale, so I wasn't using my cane. I was walking through the produce section, picking out avocados, when I noticed a woman staring at me from the end of the aisle. She had her phone out, pointed at me. I thought she was on a call, but then she turned and walked away. Something felt off. The next day at work, Casey pulled me aside. She had a smirk on her face. "I saw you at the grocery store yesterday," she said. "You were walking fine, no cane, no limp. You even bent down to get something from the bottom shelf." I stared at her. "How did you see me?" She shrugged. "I was there. I took a video. I'm going to show Amy. You're faking it." My blood went cold. She had followed me. She videotaped me without my consent. She was planning to use it as proof that I wasn't disabled. I didn't scream. I said, "That's illegal. You can't film me without permission." She laughed. "It's public place. I can film whatever I want." I went straight to Amy. I told her everything. Amy looked pale. She said, "I'll handle it." But when I left her office, I saw Casey talking to our higher-ups. Over the next few weeks, it became a whole thing. HR got involved. Casey claimed she was just documenting inconsistency for the company's sake. She sent the video to management. They asked me for medical records. I had to provide documentation from my doctor, my specialist, my therapist. I felt like I was on trial. My own workplace was treating me like a suspect. I called the police to ask about the video. They said it wasn't illegal to film in a public place, but they noted that it could be considered stalking if it was repeated. I filed a report just to have it on record. The officer didn't take me seriously. He said, "You're a grown woman, just ignore her." But it didn't stop. Casey started bringing up my disability in meetings. She questioned my need for the handicap placard in front of other coworkers. She told people I was gaming the system. A few coworkers believed her. I could feel the stares, the whispers. I ended up filing a formal complaint with HR and the AEOC. It took months. Casey was eventually disciplined, but she wasn't fired. The company said they could not confirm intent. I felt sick. I had to work next to someone who tried to destroy my credibility, who stalked me to a grocery store to videotape me, and she got a slap on the wrist. I started looking for a new job. I couldn't stay there. Every time I saw Casey, I felt that same helplessness from the sister situation, from the boyfriend betrayal. People don't believe you until they see blood. And even then, sometimes they make excuses. The update came a few weeks ago. Casey was finally let go after she tried the same stunt on another coworker. Someone else had also filed a complaint, but by then I had already put in my notice. I'm in a better place now, physically and emotionally, but I still think about that video. I think about how easy it was for her to weaponize my disability, how the system almost believed her over me. It made me realize that trust is a fragile thing. Once it's broken, you don't just glue it back together, you learn to walk away. And I did walk away from my boyfriend, from my sister, from that job. From everyone who made me feel like my pain, physical or emotional, wasn't real. I still have my streaming account. I changed the password. I don't share it with anyone anymore. Some things are better kept to yourself, but that's not the end of it. A few weeks after I put in my notice, I got a call from my lawyer. The EEOC complaint had moved forward. They wanted to depose me. Casey had apparently tried the same stunt on another coworker, a woman named Diane who had a visible tremor from early onset Parkinson's. Diane caught Casey filming her in the parking lot. Diane reported it. HR finally had enough evidence to prove intent. Casey was terminated. I felt relief but not satisfaction. The damage was already done. I had lost trust in that workplace. I had lost trust in a lot of things. Around that same time, I got a Facebook message from an old friend. She said, "Hey, I saw your dad at the grocery store. He asked about you." I hadn't spoken to my father in over a year, not since he stood me up at that restaurant. I didn't respond to the friend. But that night, I lay in bed thinking about him, about all the excuses I'd made for him over the years. When Lily was sick, my dad pulled me aside and said, "You're the strong one, you have to be." I was 14, I quit volleyball. I got a job at a fast food place. I drove Lily to chemo appointments while my friends went to homecoming. I never complained, not really, I just absorbed it all. And then years later, I walked in on her with Ben, and my dad's response was to call me to a meeting and tell me I was being selfish. He said, "She almost died, can't you just let her be happy?" I sat there in his living room, staring at the same couch where Lily and I used to build forts when we were kids, and I felt something break. I didn't scream, I said, "I can't do this," and left. Months later, I got an email from him. It was long, rambling, full of guilt and excuses. He said he never meant to hurt me. He said he was trying to keep the family together. He said Lily had been through so much and he didn't know how to handle it. He ended with, "I hope one day you'll forgive me." I never replied. I heard through a cousin that Lily and Ben got married. My stepmom posted pictures of the wedding. Lily wore a white dress. Ben wore a gray suit. They looked happy. My cousin asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, and I was. I had grieved that relationship long before the wedding day, but the part that stuck with me was something my dad said in that email. "I thought you'd understand because you're the strong one." I used to think being strong meant taking the hits and not complaining. Now I know it also means knowing when to walk away. The chronic pain situation taught me the same lesson. When Casey videotaped me, when HR questioned my legitimacy, when coworkers whispered, I felt that same pressure to prove I was worthy of empathy. But I shouldn't have to prove that. My pain is real. My disability is real. The fact that I can walk through a grocery store without a cane on a good day doesn't erase the days I can't get out of bed. I started seeing a therapist after the workplace thing. She said something that stuck: "You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm." That's what I had been doing my whole life, for my sister, for my dad, for my coworkers. I was the one who absorbed the heat so everyone else could be comfortable. No more. I changed my streaming account password again, and this time I didn't share it with anyone. I deleted my social media accounts. I changed my phone number. I moved to a new apartment in a different town. I took a job at a small nonprofit where the team actually respects boundaries. My boss, a woman named Maria, asked me on my first day if I needed any accommodations. I told her about my chronic pain and she said, "Good, I'll make sure you have a sit-stand desk and we'll figure out the parking situation." No judgment, no questions, just support. It felt foreign. Good but foreign. I still think about Ben sometimes. Not with longing, but with curiosity. Why did he do it? Was it just opportunity? Did he feel sorry for Lily? Did he think I would understand because she had cancer? I'll never know. I blocked him everywhere after the breakup. But a mutual friend told me that he and Lily broke up 6 months after the wedding. Apparently, she cheated on him with someone else. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. My dad has tried to reach out a few more times. Birthday cards, a Christmas gift. I sent them back unopened. My stepmom sent a long message on LinkedIn, of all places, saying they were worried about my soul. I deleted it. I've built a new life. It's small. It's quiet. I have a cat named Bean. I go to physical therapy twice a week. I cook dinner for myself most nights. I read books. I take my cane on bad days and leave it at home on good ones. I don't owe anyone an explanation for any of that. If there's one thing I've learned from both of these messes, it's that people will show you who they are if you pay attention. My sister showed me that my feelings were never part of her equation. My dad showed me that I was the spare tire, not the driver. Casey showed me that some people will try to break you just to feel powerful, and I showed myself that I can survive losing all of them. Some things are better kept to yourself. Some people are better left in the past, and that's where they are now, in the past, not forgotten, but not welcome in my present either. I thought I was done with all of it until I got a message from Ben 6 months after the wedding. It was a random Tuesday night. I was feeding Bean and scrolling through my email when I saw the name pop up in my spam folder. Subject line, I owe you an explanation. I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. He wrote that he was sorry. That he never meant for any of it to happen. That Lily had been the one to pursue him, that she showed up at his apartment one night when I was working late, crying about how scared she was that the cancer might come back, how lonely she felt, how I was always so busy with my second job. He said he felt trapped. He said he didn't know how to say no to her because everyone in the family acted like she was made of glass. He said he regretted it every single day. He ended the email with, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that it wasn't some grand love story. It was a mistake, and I've been paying for it ever since. I read it 3 times, then I closed the tab. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry anymore, but I also wasn't going to give him the closure he was looking for. That wasn't my job. A few weeks later, I got another email, this time from my lawyer about the EEOC case. They deposed Casey, and her testimony had been a disaster for her. She claimed she only filmed me because she wanted to document workplace safety concerns. But the video she took of Diane in the parking lot was time-stamped and clearly showed Diane struggling to unlock her car door. Diane's lawyer submitted medical records proving the tremor was part of her Parkinson's. The EEOC investigator told my lawyer it was one of the most clear-cut cases of disability-based harassment they'd seen. Casey tried to settle. She offered to pay for my therapy and medical expenses if I dropped the complaint. I said no. I wanted a public finding of discrimination. I wanted her name attached to a record that would follow her for the rest of her career. I got it. The settlement conference was in a windowless room at the EEOC office. Casey sat across the table with her lawyer, a woman in a stiff gray suit who kept glancing at her watch. Casey looked smaller than I remembered. She had dark circles under her eyes. She didn't meet my gaze. The mediator read the terms aloud: a monetary settlement for emotional distress, a written apology, and a formal finding of discrimination. I agreed to drop the claim in exchange for the finding. When it was over, Casey's lawyer handed me a letter. I opened it in the parking lot. It said, I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I was jealous and insecure and I took it out on you. You didn't deserve that. I am in therapy now. I hope you can find peace. It was typed. No signature. I folded it and put it in my glove box. I never looked at it again. That same week, I got a Facebook message from a mutual friend who said my dad was in the hospital. Heart attack. He was stable, but my stepmom was asking if I could visit. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I typed, I hope he recovers. Please don't contact me again. I blocked her. My therapist told me that was a healthy boundary. I didn't feel healthy. I felt like I was cutting off pieces of myself to survive, but I also felt lighter. The last piece of closure came from an unlikely source. One of my old coworkers from the part-time job, a guy named Marcus, reached out on LinkedIn. He said he'd heard what happened with Casey and wanted me to know that he'd always believed me. He also mentioned that after I left, 2 other employees came forward with similar stories about Casey filming them or making comments about their health. One was a woman who used insulin for diabetes. The other was a guy with a prosthetic leg. Marcus said the whole department was shaken. He said Amy, my old boss, had quit in protest because HR didn't act fast enough. I thanked him, then I closed LinkedIn and deleted my account. I don't need to know what's happening in that world anymore. I have my own world now. A small apartment with a leaking faucet I keep meaning to fix. A cat who sleeps on my keyboard. A job where people say good morning and mean it. I go to physical therapy on Wednesdays. I take my cane when I need it. I bought a new streaming account and I don't share the password with anyone. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever fully trust someone again. I'm not there yet, but I'm okay with that. The last thing Ben said in his email was, I hope one day you can be happy. I am, Ben, not because of you, not because of any of them, because I finally stopped asking people to believe me. I just started believing myself. I remember the day my dad stood me up. He called and said he wanted to meet for lunch, just the 2 of us. No stepmom, no Lily. He said he missed me. I thought maybe finally he was going to apologize. I got to the restaurant early. I picked a booth by the window so he could see me. I ordered water. I waited 45 minutes. The waitress came by twice to ask if I wanted to order. I said no, I'm waiting for someone. Finally, I called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called my stepmom. She said, oh, he's not feeling well. He went to lie down. I said, he was supposed to meet me. She said, well, you know how he gets. He's been under a lot of stress. I hung up. I paid for my water. I walked out of that restaurant and I never called him again. That was the moment I realized my father was never going to choose me, not when I quit volleyball. Not when I worked 2 jobs to pay for Lily's treatments. Not when I found her in my bed with Ben. He already made his choice years ago. He just never told me. A month after the wedding, I got a letter from Lily handwritten. She sent it to my old apartment and my former roommate forwarded it. The envelope was cream-colored like wedding stationery. I opened it in my new kitchen while Bean sat on the counter watching me. Lily wrote that she was sorry for how things happened, but she hoped I could understand that she and Ben were soulmates. She said the cancer taught her to seize happiness when she could. She said she didn't want to live with regrets. She said she hoped I would find someone who made me feel that way. I read it twice. Then I tore it into small pieces and threw them in the trash. Not because I was angry, because I didn't need to carry her words around anymore. She wasn't seizing happiness. She was seizing my life, and she wanted me to bless it. I didn't reply. The EEOC finding came through on a Thursday. I got the certified mail at my new address. I sat on my couch with the envelope in my hands, not opening it. I already knew what it said. I had already won. But winning felt hollow. I opened it anyway. The letter stated that the investigation found reasonable cause to believe that my coworker Casey had engaged in disability-based harassment and retaliation. It said I had the right to sue. I already had my settlement. I filed it away. I thought about calling my dad to tell him. Then I remembered he wasn't my dad anymore. He was just some man who raised me until I became inconvenient. I started therapy 3 weeks after the wedding. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Patel, asked me what I wanted out of our sessions. I said, I want to stop feeling like I have to prove I exist. She nodded. She didn't need me to explain. We worked on boundaries. I practiced saying no. I started with small things. No, I don't want to go to that party. No, I can't cover your shift. No, I don't want to talk about my sister. Each no felt like I was building a wall between me and the world. But the wall kept me safe. I deleted all social media. I didn't want to see pictures of Ben and Lily on their honeymoon in Cancun. I didn't want to see my dad's Facebook posts about how proud he was of Lily's recovery. I didn't want to see Casey's LinkedIn profile bragging about her new promotion. I wanted to disappear into my own life. I got a cat. I named her Bean because she's round and brown and she makes me laugh. She sleeps on my chest at night. She purrs when I cry. She doesn't ask for explanations. The hardest part was the loneliness. I used to have a family. I used to have a boyfriend. I used to have coworkers who at least pretended to like me. Now I had been in a therapist and a weekly grocery run. I started going to a chronic pain support group on Wednesday nights. There were 6 of us sitting in a circle in a church basement. We talked about flare-ups and medication and how the world doesn't believe us. For the first time in years, I felt seen. One of the women, Diane, was in her 60s. She had Parkinson's. She told the group about how her neighbor accused her of faking because she could walk her dog on good days. I told her about Casey filming me in the parking lot. She said, people are terrified of bodies that don't behave. They need you to be broken all the time so they can feel safe. I thought about that for a long time. I started writing, not for anyone, just for me. I wrote about the day I found Ben and Lily. I wrote about the look on Lily's face when she saw me standing in the doorway. She didn't look guilty. She looked triumphant, like she had won something. I wrote about the way my father's voice went cold when I told him I couldn't accept their relationship. He said, "You're being selfish. Your sister almost died." I wrote about the way Casey smiled when she showed me the video of myself limping. I wrote about the way my body ached on days when I felt invisible. Writing made the memories smaller. They became words on a page, not knives in my chest. 6 months after the settlement, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. It was Lily's voice. She said, "Hey, I know you don't want to talk, but Ben left me. He said he never loved me. He said he only stayed because he felt guilty. I just thought you should know I'm sorry for everything." Her voice cracked at the end. I deleted the voicemail without saving it. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. 2 people who hurt each other and I was the collateral damage. My chronic pain didn't go away. Some days I'm at a 6, some days a 4. I still use my cane when I need it. I still park in handicapped spots. I still have to explain myself to strangers who look at me like I'm faking. But I don't explain to anyone who doesn't matter. I just say, I have a disability and walk away. I don't owe them my medical records. I got promoted at the nonprofit. I'm the assistant director now. My boss Maria leaves me alone. She trusts me. I have a sit-stand desk. I take breaks when I need to. I leave at 5. I don't work weekends. Last month, I ran into Amy, my old boss from the part-time job at a coffee shop. She told me she quit after I left. She said HR was useless. She said Casey got a job at another company but someone found the EEOC order and she was let go during probation. She said Casey moved out of state. I nodded. I didn't ask for details. Amy said, "I'm sorry I didn't do more." I said, "You did enough." I meant it. I still think about Ben sometimes, not with longing, with gratitude that I found out before I married him. I think about my sister. I hope she gets the help she needs. I think about my father. I hope he finds peace, but I don't need to be part of that process. I'm building a life where I don't have to prove anything, where I don't have to explain my pain or my choices or my boundaries. I'm learning to say no without guilt. I'm learning to trust people who earn trust. Bean is asleep on my lap as I write this. The sun is setting outside my window. I have a cup of tea. I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm free. I never thought I'd have to prove my disability to a coworker with a camera. But here we are. I have chronic pain. The way I explain it to people who don't live with it is this. Imagine pain on a scale from 1 to 10. Most people walk around at a 2 or 3 at most. A brief, sharp pain stepping on a Lego, hitting your funny bone, that's an 8. For me, every day is a 6. Some days I'm higher, some days I'm lower. On rare, blessed mornings I'm at a 4 and I feel like I've won the lottery. The pain is constant, like a pulled muscle that never heals. I move, it hurts. I sit still, it hurts. I've learned to function through it because what else am I supposed to do? I have canes. I only use them on days when I'm at a 7 or above. I also have a handicap placard on my rearview mirror and a marker on my license plate. I'm legally disabled. I've got all the paperwork filed with my full-time job in case I ever need accommodations. But my full-time job is a desk job and I'm okay there. The real trouble started at my part-time job. I work as an assistant coordinator at a nonprofit's regional office. It's a small team. My boss, Amy, is one of those people who actually listens. She's kind without being patronizing. When I told her about my chronic pain, she said, "Let me know if you need anything. I don't need a doctor's note." I almost cried. The other assistant coordinator is a woman named Casey. We're the same position, both reporting to Amy. Casey wants a promotion more than anything. She talks about it constantly. She's been there 3 years and she's convinced she's next in line. When I was transferred to that location, she didn't exactly welcome me with open arms. She saw me as competition, even though I told her flat out that I don't want the promotion. I already have a full-time job. I do the part-time gig for extra savings and because it keeps me busy. Busy helps with my anxiety, but Casey didn't believe me. At first, it was little things. She'd make comments about how slow I was when we had to move boxes. She'd ask loudly, "Are you okay? You're walking funny." I just say I pulled a muscle or I slept wrong. I didn't owe her an explanation, but she kept pushing. The day everything blew up was a Sunday. I woke up at a solid 8 on the pain scale. I took my cane out of the car, used my handicap placard, and limped into the office. Casey saw me park. She saw me get out of the car. She saw me use my cane. She said nothing at the time. That afternoon, Amy asked me to grab a file from the storage room. I walked down the hall, still using my cane. I passed Casey's desk. She had her phone propped up against a binder. I didn't think anything of it. People take phone calls all the time. The next day, Amy called me into her office. She looked pale. She said, "I need to show you something." She turned her laptop toward me. It was a video of me walking down the hallway, limping, my cane tapping against the floor. The video had been sent to HR with a caption, "She clearly doesn't need accommodations. Look at her walk. She's faking for the parking spot." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "That's Casey, isn't it?" Amy nodded. She said, "I already forwarded it to HR with my own statement. I told them this is harassment. But I wanted you to know before they contact you." I felt cold, not cold like sick, cold like someone had drained the heat out of my body. I went back to my desk. Casey was there typing. She looked at me with this little smile. I didn't say a word. I picked up my bag, grabbed my cane, and walked out. I called my full-time job and took a sick day. I sat in my car in the parking lot and I cried, not because I was sad, because I was exhausted. I had spent years explaining my body to doctors, to insurance companies, to well-meaning relatives. And now I had to explain it to a stranger who filmed me like I was an animal in a zoo. I filed a complaint with HR the next day. I attached my medical documentation, my handicap placard registration, a letter from my pain specialist. I also filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I didn't know if that would go anywhere, but I was done playing nice. 2 weeks later, HR called me into a meeting. Amy was there, Casey was there, a HR rep named Karen was there. Karen laid out the facts. Casey had admitted to filming me. She claimed she was just documenting a concern about misuse of the handicap placard. She said she had seen me walking without my cane on other days, so she thought I was lying. I said, "I don't use my cane every day. That doesn't mean I'm not in pain. If I only use my cane when I can't walk at all, I would never leave the house." I explained the pain scale. I explained how on good days I can walk without support, but I still have a disability. I explained that the placard is for bad days and that I use it honestly. Casey said, "But you don't look disabled." Karen said, "That's not how disability works." Casey got defensive. She said I was taking advantage of the system. She said real disabled people needed those parking spots. She said she was just trying to protect resources. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "I have a chronic pain condition that is invisible unless you know what to look for. That doesn't make me a fraud. That makes me someone who has learned to manage her symptoms so she can still live her life." Karen took notes. She said the investigation would continue. Casey was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome. I went back to my desk. Amy asked if I wanted to take the rest of the day off. I said no, I wanted to stay because leaving would feel like Casey won. The EEOC investigation took 4 months. During that time, Casey's behavior got worse. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes on my desk. She told other coworkers that I was milking the system. A few people believed her. One of them, a guy named Derek, asked me point-blank if I was actually disabled. I said yes. He said, "But you go to the gym." I said, "Exercise helps with my pain." My doctor recommended it. He shrugged and walked away. I started documenting everything. Every note, every side comment, every time Casey stared at me from across the room. I kept a journal in my bag. I wrote down dates, times, exact words. I felt like a detective investigating my own life. The police got involved eventually. Casey started following me outside of work. I caught her parked near my apartment one evening. She was sitting in her car, phone pointed at my front door. I took a picture of her license plate and called the non-emergency line. The officer who came said there wasn't much they could do unless she threatened me. He suggested a restraining order. I filed for one the next morning. The restraining order hearing was a blur. Casey's lawyer argued that she was just gathering evidence for the workplace investigation. The judge didn't buy it. He granted the order. Casey was not allowed to come within 300 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. She still worked at the nonprofit. Amy had to shuffle schedules so we never overlapped. It was exhausting. I started looking for another part-time job. I didn't want to leave, but my mental health was crumbling. The EEOC finding came in on a Thursday. I got the certified mail at my apartment. I sat on my couch holding the envelope. I didn't open it for 10 minutes. My hands were shaking. Finally, I tore it open. The letter said the investigation found reasonable cause to believe that Casey had engaged in disability-based harassment and retaliation. It gave me the right to sue. I already had a lawyer. I had called a disability rights organization the week after Casey filmed me. They connected me with a pro bono attorney named Ms. Chen. She was sharp and calm. She told me, "You have a strong case. This is textbook ableism." I filed a lawsuit against the nonprofit for creating a hostile work environment. I didn't want to sue Amy or the organization. I loved the mission. But HR had known about Casey's behavior for months and did nothing until I escalated. The lawsuit settled 6 months later. The nonprofit agreed to pay me a sum I can't disclose. They also agreed to implement mandatory disability awareness training for all staff. Casey was terminated as part of the settlement. I heard through the grapevine that she tried to get a job at another nonprofit, but someone found the EEOC order online and she was let go during probation. She moved out of state. I didn't keep track. I stayed at the part-time job for another year. Amy became a good friend. She wrote me a letter of recommendation when I applied for a full-time position at a different nonprofit. That's where I work now. The new place has a sit-stand desk, flexible hours, and a culture of actually believing people when they say they need accommodations. I still have chronic pain. Some days are 6, some are 8, some are 4. I still use my cane when I need it. I still park in the handicap spots. I still get stares, but I don't explain myself anymore. I say I have a disability and keep walking. If someone doesn't believe me, that's their problem. The video Casey took of me still exists. It got passed around to a few people before HR deleted it from the company server. I don't know who has copies. I choose not to think about it. That footage is not me. It's a snapshot of a bad day captured by someone who wanted to hurt me. My real life is everything that came after. I started going to a chronic pain support group on Wednesday nights. There are 6 of us sitting in a circle in a church basement. We talk about flare-ups and medication and the way the world looks at us like we're faking. One woman, Diane, is in her 60s. She has Parkinson's. She told the group about how her neighbor accused her of faking because she could walk her dog on good days. I told her about Casey. She said, "People are terrified of bodies that don't behave. They need you to be broken all the time so they can feel safe." I think about that a lot. I don't know if I'll ever stop being angry, not the loud, screaming kind of angry. The quiet kind that sits in my chest like a weight, but I don't let it control me. I let it remind me that I survived, that I fought back. That I didn't disappear into a world that wanted me to be invisible. If you have a disability, invisible or not, you don't owe anyone your medical records. You don't owe anyone a performance of suffering. You just owe yourself the life you want to live. I'm living mine, with a cane on bad days and without on good, with a job that respects me, with a cat named Bean who doesn't ask questions, and with the knowledge that I don't have to prove anything to anyone. That was the end of my chronic pain story. I sat back for a second and took a breath. That one took a lot out of me, but this is a compilation, so I'm moving on to another one, another story that messed me up. This one is about my sister and my ex, and it involves cancer and betrayal and a family that chose the wrong person. I'm 25 now, but this started a few years ago. My dad married my stepsister's mother when I was 4 and she was 3, so we grew up together. We were close. I mean, we shared a room for a while. We fought over the remote. We told each other secrets. She was my sister, not my stepsister. That's how I saw it. When she was 14, she got diagnosed with cancer. Real cancer, the kind that makes your parents go pale and start selling stuff. She was sick for about 2 years. I quit my high school volleyball team because someone had to drive her to appointments and my parents had to work. I got a part-time job to help with the medical bills. I didn't go to homecoming or prom because any fun activity had to include her. That was the rule. I didn't complain. Well, I complained once about volleyball and my dad grounded me for a month. So I stopped complaining. She made a full recovery. She's healthy now and I'm glad. I mean it. I'm not a monster. I went to college and met Ben when I was a junior. We fell in love, or I fell, he fell. It felt mutual. We moved in together after graduation, lived together for 3 years. We were talking about marriage. I thought he was the one. Then in July, I came home early from work. I had a headache. I walked into our bedroom and saw him fucking my sister. On my bed, my sheets, my pillow. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared. They didn't notice me for a few seconds. Then my sister looked up. Her face went white. Ben pulled away and started stammering. I said, "Get out." I pointed at the door. Ben grabbed his pants and left. My sister got dressed and ran out without saying anything. She texted me that night, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. Please don't tell mom and dad." I didn't respond. I told Ben to come get the rest of his stuff and blocked him. I cried for 3 days. I thought my sister was giving me space. I was wrong. A week later, she called and asked to meet for coffee. I agreed because I thought maybe she wanted to apologize in person. Instead, she sat me down at a Starbucks and said, "Me and Ben are in love. We're telling you as a courtesy before we start posting on social media." I stood up. I walked out. I left her sitting there. I didn't pay for my iced latte. She Venmoed me asking for the money, $5 for the latte. I sent it back and added a note, "Go fuck yourself." She told my parents. My dad called me and said, "We need to talk." I went to their house the next evening. My mom and dad were in the living room. My sister was sitting on the couch all teary-eyed. My dad said, "We are very disappointed in you. You are not supporting your sister's relationship with Ben. She has been through so much. Cancer. And now you're making her life hard." I said, "She slept with my boyfriend in my bed and now she wants to date him." My mom said she's sorry, but she says they really love each other. Can't you just be happy for them? I looked at my sister. She was crying. I said, "Are you serious?" My dad said, "You need to accept this. She's your sister. Family comes first." I said, "She's not my sister. She's the woman who destroyed my relationship." My mom started crying. My dad raised his voice. He said, "You are being selfish. You have no idea what she's been through." I walked out. I didn't speak to them for 2 months. During that time, my sister posted pictures with Ben on Instagram. Ben's family started tagging her. My cousin asked me if I was okay. I said no. She said, "I heard they're living together now." I had to sell the apartment we shared. I moved in with a friend. I started therapy. Then my dad called and said he wanted to take me to dinner, just us, to talk. I agreed. I thought maybe he was ready to apologize. I showed up at the restaurant. I waited 45 minutes. He never came. I called him. He said, "Your sister is having a bad day. She needed me." Couldn't leave her? I said, "You stood me up." He said, "I'll reschedule." I said, "Don't bother." That was the last time I tried. I went no contact for a year. During that year, my sister's relationship with Ben fell apart. She called me crying, saying he cheated on her. She said I was right. She said she should never have done that. She wanted me to forgive her. I said, "I'm glad you're okay, but I can't have you in my life." She said, "But cancer, I was a teenager when I had cancer." I said, "That doesn't excuse this." My mom called. She said, "Your sister is depressed. She needs you." I said, "I need to protect myself." My dad called. He said, "You are the most stubborn person I know. We are your family." I said, "You picked her over me every single time. You stood me up at a restaurant because she had a bad day. I had years of bad days. I was the one who drove her to chemo. I was the one who gave up volleyball. I was the one who didn't go to prom, and you never once thanked me. You just expected it. And when she betrayed me, you expected me to smile and take it."